Hello. I have created a tool for us to use for planning, lesson planning with our new rotating schedule. And it is called QBook. I gave it a name. It's not a great name. And it's just an app that we can use together, or you can use on your own if you'd like to. The idea for it is simply that it's going to connect your lesson planning with the rotating schedule that we have with Canvas so that you always know what class you are teaching that day, but also which lesson for which period you are teaching. Because some days you'll find that you're teaching one day ahead of the other classes or one day behind the other classes, depending on how the schedule rotation works out. And so this is going to keep it all organized for you. So when you first go to the app, the first thing you do is just sign in with Google and use your Rollentall email address to do that. So I'm signing in with Google, and there we go. And this brings up a calendar for me. But the first thing I'm going to do is go to courses and add a course for me to teach. So I will do that. I will add the course Space Travel, and I will teach that period 5. And then I will give that a color, give it a nice blue color. And that is my space travel course, and I am done. So now when I go to my calendar, it has already put it into my calendar. August 18th, because I'm teaching it period 5, I know I'm teaching it on August 18th and in this order. On August 19th, I'm going to teach it 4th day. August 20th, I'm not teaching it. August 21st, I am teaching it second part of the day or the second period of the day. So this is a way for us to see on a calendar, on a monthly view, what we're teaching on any particular day. You can also do a weekly view if you want to do that. This is our opening week. We don't have any classes on Monday. On Tuesday, we have all the classes that we're teaching. And Wednesday, we only have 4. So these are the different classes that I'm teaching that day. Where it's really helpful, though, is that you can go into lesson sequence and then you choose that course that you created. And what you will see is there are about 100 blank lessons because you have 100 days of teaching, 100 individual days for each period that you teach. So you can then begin to fill out all your lesson plans for the entire year. Now it lets you know where the semester break is. There's a semester marker here. So our first semester up until mid-December, you're going to get 45 days of period 5, 45 days of period 6. I think periods 1 and 2 have 46 days, but it will tell you that if you're working on period 1 or period 2, it will tell you, hey, these have an extra day. Here's 46 blanks for you. So then you can fill them out and put in all your lessons. You can create units for these lessons. So if my first unit of space travel is just going to be an introduction to space travel, I can give that unit a color, like I can make it purple because that's my favorite. Save that. And now I have a new unit. If my first lesson is, I'm going to do a first day on the syllabus, I make a lesson, I make it part of that unit. And then any other future lessons, if I want to add them into that unit, I can do it. The next day is going to be astronomy. Not very good at typing. And then I'm just going to drag it up and add it into that unit. So syllabus, then astronomy. These units don't mean anything. They're just a way to help you organize visually how your year is continuing. And you can add as many units as you want to. You can leave things out of units if you want to. But the beauty of it is when you go to your calendar, you will see that it has updated those lessons for period 5. That's meeting 1 is syllabus. Meeting 2 is astronomy. Meeting 3 for period 5 is blank so far. But if you have multiple periods from the same course, it will keep those all figured out for you. So you can see what I've actually done. I'll give you my course here, AP European History. I've mapped out all of my units and all of my lessons for those units. And now when I go to the calendar, it tells me that for my period 2 class for AP Euro, I'm doing our first lesson, Maps of Meeting. And for my period 2 class the next day, I'm doing our second lesson. On Thursday, I'm doing our third lesson with one class, but our second lesson with another one. So it keeps me remembering, or it puts in my mind when I look at it the first day, oh, I'm teaching 2 separate things to these classes. The other cool thing about it is that when you go to your lessons, you can put into the lesson all the materials you need that day. You say, okay, I know I'm teaching this lesson. Here's the things I need to go with it. You can put notes for yourself as to what you're going to do in that lesson if you want to. You could even write up a whole script if you want to. But what I'd recommend doing is, instead of writing up a script and typing in the notes here, I would make it a file that gets added to the lesson. So I've also made this that it connects to Google Drive. So I've already added a couple files here because this is a lesson on maps and I want to have these maps at hand. So I've put them as files into this. I'll add another one so you can see. I hit add from Google Drive. I make sure I'm logged into my Google Drive. Yes, it's asking me if it needs access, and it does. And then I can just search, since this is on maps. There's a map I need. I'm going to search for the word maps and see what I can find in my Google Drive. Medieval maps. This is the map that I need. I'm going to select it, and it gets added as a resource, and I can open it and see it for myself. And that way, when I go about that day's lessons, I don't have to go hunt for, oh yeah, where did I put that maybe presentation that I needed, or where did I put that script that I needed, or where's that handout I needed? It's all right there for you because you've already uploaded it into this and it's organized for you. It's a little bit quicker than Canvas, and it's a little bit more organized than Canvas in that way. Also, what I find is after I teach a lesson, it never goes exactly the way I thought. And I think, ooh, I need to change something for the next year. I've added something where you can do little teaching notes down here. So what worked? What would you change? What would you remember for next year? This map thing is too long of a lesson. Look at fewer maps. So the next time I do this, I'm going to plan to look at 2 maps, not 3 maps, because I can remember this for myself. The other cool thing that I really like is that when you create the course, you can create, along with it, course goals. Like, how do I want students to be different by the end of the year? So I can say students will be able to travel to the moon by the end of the year. I want that. But I also want students to be able to explain astrotelemetry. I don't even know if that's a thing. Okay. And then there's these little tags that get created. Travel moon. I'm going to make it moon travel instead. I like that better. Astrotelemetry. I spelled it wrong. I just realized. Astrotelemetry. Okay. So I've made now 2 course goals. When I close that, you will see that, oh, why did it say no? Oh, I have to hit save, I think. No, it's right. Okay. Maybe I have to close the whole thing. If I go to my lessons for space travel, when I go to plan the lessons, those course goals show up here. So now, depending on how many course goals you make, of course, you can make as many as you want, but I'm going to say, well, that first lesson, I'm really not dealing with moon travel, right? That's just a syllabus lesson. So I'm not going to click that. But day 2, I'm going to start to introduce astrotelemetry. So I'm going to click that and say, well, this lesson actually helps me with that course goal. And so it puts this little tag here. So there's 2 great things with that. One is when you are planning your lessons, you're always thinking, why am I teaching this lesson? It must be meeting one of these course goals. Otherwise, there's no point in doing it. I've done it, and now I can glance and see that for my course or my lessons that I've made for AP, I can see that I have touched on very quickly at a glance, historical thinking 3 times, primary sources 3 times, major movements 4 times. I'm not doing much with causation. That was one of my goals. I'm noticing I'm only hitting that 1 time in 6 lessons. Maybe that's fine, but it at least lets me know, oh yeah, you're only doing that once. And so that's going to give you a sense of the whole semester, how much of that you're hitting as you go. There are also some times where you don't know where a lesson is going to fit in the plan. You know you want to teach it, but you don't know where it's going to fit exactly. For that, you can go to the lesson sandbox down here. I made something that was called Triceps and Heuristics. I want to teach my students about sort of heuristic tools of historians. I don't know when I want them to teach that or when I want to teach them that, but I know I want to teach it at some point. So it just sits here in the sandbox. Then when I want to, after I've developed it and taught it, I can move it into a unit. I can say, okay, I think I'm going to teach this during industrialization. So that's the idea with that. The sandbox is for you to develop lessons on your own before moving them into particular units. A couple more things that are helpful with this. All of the notes you have on the lesson, all of the ideas, they're available from the calendar. So when I go and see my calendar in the morning and it's August 18th and I know I'm teaching AP Euro Maps of Meaning, if I click on that, it brings up everything that I need for that day. It tells me these are the materials you need to bring to class. These are the files you may need. These are the little lesson notes for myself, including the after teaching notes from the last time I taught it. And so I can have that at hand. The other thing that goes along with this is that sometimes you don't get to a lesson, or it takes longer than you think and you need a second day of that same lesson. If that's the case, you can actually push that lesson forward in the calendar one day or insert a new day into the lesson plan. And if you do that, what it does is it bumps everything forward one class period. So for instance, right now, you will see that I am teaching Maps of Meaning on day 1, Intro to Europe 1 on day 2, and for period 2, the Daughter of Time thing is coming on meeting 3. If, however, I bump this by one day, push this lesson forward, it then moves up to the next day, and Daughter of Time is going to move to the next week because it was the last meeting for that class. There it is right there. So it moves everything forward with all your classes for that day. And you can also do the opposite. If I decided, you know what, I'm just going to skip this so I can get back on schedule, I'm just going to delete this lesson. And then it moves everything back one place again, which is helpful. Okay, there's more. When you sign up, there's other features, including there's a user guide that you can use here that tells you how to do everything if you want to access that. But there is also a suggest a feature button. If there's something you'd like to see that you don't see yet, that's very important. You can click that more and then suggest a feature, and you can email me directly what you think the feature should be. There's also backups. You can turn on your Google Drive backup. So it's connected directly to your Google Drive, which means every time you change anything, just like with Google Docs, it records it. So then you can go back in time and recover something you've lost. What if you accidentally delete a whole course? Well, what I've done to make sure that doesn't happen is if you try to delete a course by hitting delete course, it pops up and is like, are you sure you want to delete this entire course? This will delete all your lessons and everything. I would hit cancel. But if you accidentally delete something and you want to go back, you can restore a backup from your Google Drive. You can also undo deleting a lesson slot, because that's the last thing I did. You can hit the undo button here. More importantly, you can connect Canvas to your QBook, which means that when you get all this planned out for any of these courses, you can click push to Canvas, and it will set up all of these lessons in your Canvas page for that course. That means that for every one of those lesson slots, it's going to create a unit or a module rather, and an individual assignment for the students that will go on the modules page. So right now in my lesson sequence, I have the unit Introduction to European History with 3 lessons in it, and the Renaissance with 13 more lessons in it. That will, in the modules page in Canvas, create a unit, or a module rather, that's called that same thing, and 3 assignments that have those same names that are assigned on those days at 8 a.m. Meaning as soon as you push it to Canvas, it's going to show up in your Canvas calendar the same way that it shows up on this weekly calendar. The lessons will be blank. That means that you can go into Canvas and add any details you want, because those lessons are student facing, right? The ones that you put up on Canvas are student facing, so you might not want the same details. The titles will be the same, the modules will be the same, or the units, but you don't necessarily want them to see your notes about how bad it was the last time you taught it. If you would like to have a student facing feature that you do in QBook rather than Canvas, let me know and I'll change that and create a student facing part that you can also push to Canvas. But you can just go into Canvas itself and adjust it there. The dates will all be on the student calendars for each of those sections, and it will be by default an ungraded assignment so that it shows up in their to-do list, but it's not going to show up in your gradebook as a result. Okay, that's it. That's the tool. I can't think of any more features off the top of my head. But if you'd like me to add any, let me know. Or if you have any questions about how to use it, let me know. I'm finding it very helpful because I will know on every day, not having to write things manually into my Roll and Tall planner, but just through this, what I'm teaching each class every day and where all the stuff is for that class. And the fact that I can push it to Canvas makes it much easier for me. So thanks.